Hey guys, I'm Iffy, one of your co-hosts. Thank you so much for tuning into the Get Paid to Live podcast, where we explore how to intentionally design a life where you live first and get paid second. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you work for someone else, or you're just curious about how to create your dream life. In these episodes, you'll find the inspiration, the tips, and the motivation on how you can navigate that process through our honest reflections as new entrepreneurs. We have such a juicy episode today, and I can't wait to dive in. But before we do, we want to take a few minutes to tell you about a new end-to-end recording and podcasting platform that can help you find your dream audience and customers called Riverside. It has such a beginner-friendly interface, and it's super intuitive even from the first time that you go in. This way you can spend less time tinkering with fancy editing softwares and spend more time clarifying your message, what actually matters. It's powered by AI to cut out speech breaks, create clips automatically, and transcribe your videos. So no more manual captions. These are just a few of the many features. Personally, some of my favorites are the high quality recording features, the magic clips, the captioning, and the teleprompter screen that comes up when you're recording. We've used a high quality recording to host 2 international guests virtually, and it was so easy for them to join, set up. All they had to do was press a button and they were brought into the studio at the max quality for their computers and audio. You can even record up to 4K and adjust the audio pre or post production to make it sound like you're in a studio. I love using the chat features, the script, and the teleprompter to stay on top of discussion points. And it's not just for podcasters. If you want to edit long or short form video for Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts, or even host a live stream, it's got you covered. They have so many fun features to play around with. You can even add in customized branding and animate your captions so they move when you're speaking. And lastly, with the magic clips feature, we're able to make 10 plus pieces of content from one episode in literally just 1 second. I'm not kidding you. Press a button and it creates these different pieces of content for you about the juiciest parts of your episode. So if you're ready to pull the trigger and get your content out there with a frictionless editor and recorder, be sure to use the code IFOMA, which is IFEOMA, to get 15% off your paid plans. And biggest of all, thank you so much to Riverside for sponsoring today's episode. Without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. So although this alignment has been amazing, I don't think any of this would have started if we weren't confused as fuck like 2 weeks ago. And I think that's a huge thing that I see, especially now I'm talking to people who are like me, who are ambitious, they don't know what to do yet. Most of the stress and suffering comes from the inaction. Most of it comes from I've got to get this $1 million idea all of a sudden without researching, without flopping, without failing, without experience. It's gonna come to me, and I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And then you're sitting here stressed, like, I know I'm meant to do something. I'm supposed to be famous, yo. Like, I'm supposed to do this, whatever. Yeah, if you do it, like you can't.
But if you're sitting around,
it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I think we need to talk about normalizing confusion in the process, and not only normalizing it, but like, it's the right path to take. Like, it is the rite of passage.
Right. Because I feel like in confusion lies new opportunities.
Yeah.
Lies the unknown, you know? And if you spend your whole life living in the known, corporate job, mortgage,
school,
Thursday, happy hour, bachelor party, like, all
Vegas.
the things, Vegas, like all the things that are known, common knowledge, like what everyone knows, like you're not going to live an unconventional life.
Yeah.
And if you want to be like, I'm meant to be famous, yo, that doesn't exist within the conventional. So it's going to require you to go out to the unknown, which is confusion, but turning that confusion into clarity, that's the process,
Exactly.
It's the process of gaining knowledge, gaining skills, and gaining that ability to make a judgment call. This is signal, this is noise.
Exactly.
Because when you spend your whole life in this conventional box,
you have no idea.
Everything around you sounds like noise.
Exactly.
But it's not. You have to kind of venture out into that forest to kind of learn what is really signal and what is really noise based on the things that you value and the things you want.
Yes, and we talked about this, I think, in like episode 1 of season 2. Like, the only way you know that difference between the signal and the noise is through knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
And trying, like, physically, mentally being there, showing up to the space where you can practice and learn. And speaking of that, I feel like that along many thoughts, there's like a lot of like myths around making it or producing it. There's so many myths, and like I'm just gonna name a few that we can talk about. Like we mentioned that the clarity comes before action.
Right.
Actually, it's the other way around.
Clarity comes through action.
Yeah, I think along with that, there's like this idea that you stumble across something and then you can start putting all your eggs into that basket. When I think it requires a little bit of commitment, actually a lot of commitment up front. Exactly. A lot of investment up front. Then, which is time, money, energy, action. Then you come to that clarity like we were kind of talking about, which this is just the beginning. I feel like that holds so many people back because what does it perpetuate? Waiting? What is it
If
inhibit?
you're waiting, you're not learning.
Exactly. And it's like, I think the biggest way to tell is like, are my thoughts, what I'm choosing to believe every day, is that creating more action or is it not?
Right.
And it can be simplified into those two things because if we can agree that action is what produces results, everything that revolves in your day, everything around you should be promoting action. If it's promoting inaction, that's the stuff you need to start cutting out. And I can guarantee you, I had to, like old Iffy to new Iffy, she had to start cutting out those things that make her want to rot and scroll and feel bad about herself and wait around and be like, oh, and be jealous that this person came up with their idea. They're not on TikTok like you are right now. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like the waiting just promotes more waiting.
Waiting, yeah.
You know?
The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if you spend all your time waiting or doing unproductive things and inaction, then you're going to just keep perpetuating that behavior.
Exactly. Another myth I feel like I hear a lot is like the people who have the thing, the brand, the offer, the community, they have something that I don't. There's something different between me and them. They have people helping them. They have a team. They have money. They have resources. They have a network. They have this and that. That's why they're not confused. That's why they have everything figured out. At one point, they were probably just like you or even further behind. Like Samuel Jackson. Like he didn't start till late. Or like Morgan Freeman. They started very late in their careers. The Colonel Sanders. He started really Colonel Sanders. Didn't he start like 60 or something?
Yeah, like really late.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I think this relates to the fixed mindset. And it's like...
It's an excuse.
People think that you either got it or you don't got it. But the reality is that no one is born with anything. You know what I mean? Everything that people gain is developed. Sure, there's some, aspect of like luck and natural ability. But in the long run, luck kind of washes out and what you're left with is skill, you know? And then the people who kind of make it like the top 1% of the 1%, maybe they had that right combination of luck and skill. But most people who are quote unquote successful in any given discipline, they didn't necessarily get there just because of luck. They got there because of skill. And skill is something you have to develop through effort, through action. You know, you have to go through that discomfort. You have to go through the levels. You have to go through the bosses and learn the skills and acquire the knowledge in order to kind of be someone who's capable of doing that. You know what I mean? So if you just kind of take someone who's, runs a, let's say mid-sized company, like a 200-person company, the amount of skills they had to develop to get to that point, like you need those skills because even if you get there by luck, you're not going to stay there if you don't have sufficient skills to maintain it.
Exactly. It's a combination of luck and skill because they kind of, when one is falling down, the other one can kind of pick it up. But if you
never develop any skills, you're going to lose it all.
Exactly.
It's the same reason why lottery winners usually go broke because they don't have the skills
to maintain it or make more of it.
To maintain it and allocate capital effectively.
Exactly. So I think one thing, I was literally just talking about this with a friend yesterday, anytime I notice my brain is like,
making excuses for people or as to why they have something, or kind of assuming something about them, or like, oh, that doesn't work, or oh, they got this because of this thing, or like they're not confused because of X. They have something that I don't.
Yeah.
Anytime I notice my brain saying something like that, or I can't, or I won't be able to, or I'm in my situation, I immediately stop. You don't have to change the thought, but the first step is noticing how many times you think that, and just being like, is that promoting my action? Is that helping me get further in this? Is that helping my ideas become more clear by making an excuse as to why that person has a successful brand? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Actually, what would promote more action? Why do they have a successful brand?
Yeah, be curious.
Let me be curious. What did they do to get there? That's actionable. You can look up an interview. You can look up blogs written about them and learn. And that is something that has significantly helped me in my journey now, is listening to entrepreneur stories over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because you start to see how not different you guys are. Like we all are, honestly.
Yeah.
Like everybody... I've talked to creators of all sizes. I've talked to entrepreneurs in different points in their journey. It's basically the same shit. And I think when you think about it that way, it sounds like, oh, that sucks. But actually, it's a really good thing, because that's opportunity. That means there's possibility. That means you can do it too. That means that there's something that you just don't know, that once you know it, you can be just like them. That's actually a really positive thing.
And usually you're just like one or two skills,
Oh,
one
wow.
or two key pieces of information away from getting to that next level.
I literally just need to open this damn book that has been out for at least a year.
Which one?
$1 Million Weekend.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just
And
a
for some
simple
people,
framework.
And then for some people, they might read it and it's like too far ahead. Like it's too much of a leap. And that's fine. You know what I mean? It's all about like, that's the hard part. But that's part of the confusion, because you're like confused and you're wandering around. But then when you stumble across that one or two things, you're like, oh, this is what I was missing.
Yeah.
And then that kind of bumps you up a little bit. You know, to kind of put this in more like concrete terms, like when you think of like any full-time roles at like a corporation, you have like individual contributors, managers of managers, leaders, you know, and so on and so forth. Each level requires a certain set of skills. Like if you're an individual contributor, I'm going to talk about data science because that's the field I know.
Yeah.
You need a certain number of skills. You need to know how to code. You need to know how to make models. You need to know how to talk to people, and that, you know, that's enough. But then, in order to get to that next level, there's some like things you need to learn. You need to learn how to manage a team. You need to learn how to be responsible for everyone's projects, not just your own projects, you know? So these are like skills you have to learn and unlock for yourself. And then there's another level. It's like, okay, how do I learn to manage managers? And, you know, and so now that requires a whole different set of skills. And it's the same thing in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in anything that you're trying to get good at. You know what I mean? It's levels, and the only thing keeping you at your current level is a certain number of skills.
Exactly.
Because if you had the skills, you wouldn't be at this level, because it would be obvious.
And
you know what I mean? Oh, and let me just kind of make this point. At one point, graduating high school, or like, you know, getting, kind of finishing your English essay was the hardest, most impossible task ever. But now it's a joke. You know what I mean? At one point, getting a corporate job was this impossible, hard thing. Now it's trivial. You know what I mean? And one day, all the problems you're facing right now will be a joke. You know what I mean?
I know.
Because it's all about skills. It's not magic, you know? There's specific things that you can learn that will make this problem not a problem anymore.